For another live stream brought to you by, of course, the awesome people over at Princess Dental Staffing. So happy everyone could be here with me today on this Wednesday. Today's topic is how to improve your dental hygienist patient customer service. Okay, so at the end of the day, dental hygienist position is customer facing, right? You're dealing with the public pretty much every day, right? Every single day you're coming into contact with patients and the public at large. So it's really important to have strong customer service skills. It's really, really crucial skill to have is customer service in order to make sure that the patient has the best experience possible and that they come back and continue to return and see you for their checkups and their cleanings, etc. Okay, but before we dive into that, just want to remind everyone that Princess Dental Staffing is an online dental job board. They have positions available for front office, dental assistant, dental hygienist, and even dentists in a variety of different areas. Okay, so, and they're also full-time, part-time, permanent, and temporary positions. Okay, so there's a lot of different options there. So if you get a chance today, be sure to head on over to princessdentalstaffing.com where you can take a look at positions that are available in your area. And you can also create a profile to get your information in front of hiring managers. You can also, while you're there, check out their blog, which covers a lot of the same topics that we cover in these live streams, and you can get some extra information. Okay, so if you don't want to miss out on future streams, we do them every Wednesday. Okay, and you can like our channel, or excuse me, follow our page or subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on future streams. If you have any questions, thoughts, insights on any of the topics that we're covering, be sure to comment below. And if you like the content that we're bringing you, be sure to drop us a like as well. Okay. All right, so let's dive into today's topic. So again, we're talking about improving your patient customer service skills as a dental hygienist. Okay, so tip number one is let them choose the music or the channel. So a lot of operatories have either an individual radio or like a TV in the operatory. I know my dentist, they have a TV, and it's even like it's higher on the seal or higher on the wall, and it's kind of tilted down so you can see it while you're lying down. I really love that. I watch a lot of TV in my dentist's office. It's probably not a great thing, but I really enjoy it anyway. But if you have those options available where you're working, allow the patient to choose the music or choose the channel. Okay, you can hand the controls on over to them, or you can ask them what they prefer and find it for them. Okay, if your office policy isn't to hand over the controls, you can find it for them. Okay, I know it might not be what you're particularly interested in watching or listening to, but at the end of the day, again, it's about the patient experience. It's about making the patient feel comfortable. And again, we've spoken at length about how patients feel very, very anxious when they go to the dental office. And one of the ways to help them relax a little bit and to feel more in control is to let them choose things that they can choose. And one of those is music or, what they're watching on TV. Okay. It makes them feel, it can help them feel a little bit more in control and a little less stressed. And at the end of the day, that makes your job easier as well. Okay. So the other really great thing about allowing them to watch, whatever they want to on TV is that they're less focused on, what you're doing in their mouth. And that way it doesn't feel, it might not feel as painful to them as if they didn't have a distraction. Now, we all know that, a lot of the times patient feeling pain is a direct relation, is directly related to their oral hygiene habits, right? And how well they're taking care of their mouth, their teeth, their gums, their tongue, all that kind of stuff. So if they're not, up on their oral hygiene, of course, it's going to be more painful. But if they're distracted, it won't feel as painful to them. Okay. So, just letting them watch TV, whatever they want to watch, or listen to whatever they want to listen to, can really go a long way to making them feel a little less stressed and also not feel as much of what's going on in their mouths. Okay. All right. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, if they come in and upset, don't take it personally, okay? A lot of the times, especially if the patient walks in and they're already in a bad mood, a lot of the times it really doesn't have anything to do with you. So don't take it personally, okay? Even if they're saying nasty things to you, or they're giving you an attitude, or even if they're, calling names or anything like that, it really doesn't have anything to do with you. It's usually a reflection of what's going on in their lives. So it's really important to remember that, if patients come in and they're just in a bad mood, it's probably because of something that happened earlier that day. You don't know if they got, bad news, or if they're just having a really difficult day, or they're, dealing with like a personal issue or a family issue. Heck, they may even be in a customer facing role, and they just had a customer get in their face about something that wasn't in their control. So it could be a lot of different factors. Okay. So make sure that you don't take it personally. And even in my line of work, I'm very customer facing as well. I'm a resume writer, and I'm very customer facing as well. And even in my line of work, I still have to deal with clients who are disgruntled, or they're not particularly happy, or they're entering the resume writing process with a kind of a bad attitude. And I noticed over the course of the past year that number of clients who are just not very happy, or they're very anxious, or just otherwise upset, has risen. And I think a lot of that has had to do with COVID shutdowns. A lot of my clients were laid off, and they were thrust back out into the workforce unexpectedly. Some of them leaving positions that they liked, some of them leaving positions that they absolutely loved. I've even had a few clients who were at the same company for 20 or 30 years, and all of a sudden they are thrust back out into the workforce, and they're having to look for a new position. And I realized that, a lot of their anger and their frustration and their sadness and their anxiety really didn't have a lot to do with me, but the fact that they had to be in this process in the first place, and that they had a lot riding on, creating a strong resume that's going to get them an interview, and hopefully get them a job as well, so that they can, pay their bills and support their families, health insurance, and that sort of thing. And I found that when I didn't take it personally, when I realized they're probably just really upset about the process, it allowed me, not taking it personally, allowed me to view the situation in such a way that I didn't have to be defensive. I didn't have to defend myself or my skills or anything like that. Instead, I focused mostly on the problem and what was upsetting them, in order to deliver solutions. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you would prefer to go this route, but not the other. Here's what I can do to fix this, and that sort of thing. And I found that a lot of them were a lot calmer about the process. I even had a few of them apologize to me for having such a bad attitude, which again, it wasn't personal. I knew it wasn't personal. And I knew that a lot of it was just the anxiety of the situation. So I think that if you view the patient and realize that they're in this situation where, they're coming in for cleaning, which they're probably anxious about anyway, or if they're receiving bad news about their oral health or oral hygiene, and realize it's going to cost a lot of money, maybe even be painful. It's just a very anxious feeling, and, they can react very angrily about it. And it really doesn't have a whole lot to do with you. And I think if you realize that you are not, when you don't take it personally, you don't have to be as defensive. And that way you can address concerns more thoroughly and help them feel more comfortable about the process. Okay. Number 3, give your patients sunglasses, okay? So protective use against the dental lights, right? So some of those lighting systems can be as bright as 200,000 lux, okay? That's even brighter than the most intense and direct sunlight on a summer day, okay? So you don't want your patient looking directly into the light and potentially giving them some eye issues as well, okay? It's just really uncomfortable. And again, we want to make sure that the patient is as comfortable as possible in order to move through the appointment as as seamlessly as possible. Okay, so make sure that you're giving them sunglasses. And I know that the light is meant to allow you to see into their mouth, but of course it's going to get into their eyes, and it's just going to cause a lot of discomfort. So make sure that you're offering them sunglasses, and just so that they can get through the process with as little discomfort and pain as possible. Okay. Lastly, number 4, give an honest but understanding diagnosis, okay? It's always important to speak with your patient and be very transparent and very honest as possible, right? And I imagine that there are, some practices out there that aren't as transparent as perhaps they could be. Perhaps they are trying to make a little bit more money, and they're trying to push the patient towards a treatment that is helpful, but maybe a little bit more expensive. And at the end of the day, it's a business. And of course, the business only survives if you're making money, right? So that the business can pay its bills and can pay you as the dental hygienist, et cetera. But at the end of the day, again, it's about the patient experience, and we want to make sure that we're not placing undue financial burden on the patient themselves. So make sure that you are being very clear and very thorough, and describing, telling them what the diagnosis is and describing what's going on. Okay, so one thing that I find that is always really, really helpful, if I'm trying to explain something kind of complicated to patients, or not patients, but clients that that maybe they're not as familiar with because they don't do the same thing I do on a regular basis, I find that analogies work really, really well. Trying to relate the process to something else is really, really helpful. And also remember to use those great active listening techniques, asking, questions such as, does all that make sense? Is all that clear to you? Did you need any further clarification? Do you have any questions about your diagnosis or the process? Or that sort of thing. Okay, so make sure that you're asking those questions, and that way they'll be more comfortable asking you questions, and getting a thorough understanding of what is going on and where they're going to go with processes and procedures. Okay. Alrighty. Also, make sure that you're using the actual term for the diagnosis itself. Okay, it's okay to use technical terms. As a matter of fact, it's preferred for one, so that the patient knows that you know what you're talking about and that you're a professional, and then also 2, so that if they decide they want to look it up later, they can. But you want to use the actual terms, the official terms for diagnoses, etc. But you just want to make sure that you're explaining them thoroughly, and so that the patient has thorough knowledge of, like I said, their particular situation and where they're going to go in terms of processes in order to fix it, and how they can prevent this in the future as well. If it's an oral hygiene practice kind of issue, then they'll know how to avoid it in the future. Okay. All right. So those are our tips for improving your customer service skills as a dental hygienist in order to give your patients the best experience possible. Let's go over them one last time. Number 1, let them choose the music or the channel. Again, it just helps the patient feel more in control in a situation where they might feel a little bit anxious, and it allows them to be distracted from potential pain that they might experience from you working in their mouths. Okay. Number 2, if they come in upset, don't take it personally. It's likely nothing to do with you. You don't know what the patient, you don't know what's going on in the patient, everything that's going on in the patient's life. They might have had a bad day, bad week. Maybe they're just having a hard time with it. And, sometimes those emotions kind of spill out onto other people, whether we want them to or not. So make sure that you're not taking it personally. And that way you can look at the situation more analytically and respond to the patient as opposed to being defensive. Okay. Number 3, give your patient sunglasses. Those lights are bright and they are going to shine in the patient's eyes. Even though you're trying to get that to shine in their mouth, it is going to shine in the patient's eyes, and it is going to be very uncomfortable. So make sure that you're offering them sunglasses glasses in order to protect their eyes. And number 4, lastly, give an honest but understanding diagnosis, okay? Patients don't deal with the same, don't have the average patient does not have the same education and training that you do, and they don't deal with oral hygiene as often as you do, right? You're looking in patients' mouths every day. They think about their oral hygiene probably twice a year when they go in for their cleanings. So it might be a little bit difficult for them to understand. Make sure you're using official terms and correct terms, but make sure that you are explaining it in such a way that most people will be able to understand. And again, make sure you're using those active listening techniques and asking those questions. Does that all make sense? Is there anything else I can explain for you? Do you have any questions about the process or the diagnosis and those sorts of things? Okay, and that's going to really help build a strong and trusting rapport with that patient. Okay. So thank you for being here with me today, everyone. And if you weren't here when the stream was live, so glad that you got to watch it later. We will be back next week with a new topic which discusses your career in the dental industry. Okay, be sure to check out princessdentalstaffing.com. Take a look at their blog. Take a look at positions available in your area. And if you have time, create a profile and get your information in front of hiring managers. Okay, so we'll be back next week. In the meantime, have a great week. Have a great weekend. Continue to stay safe out there, and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye everyone.